Joe, do you have a response? Joe Palmieri?
Yeah, Taryn, I'll make a comment. I mean, we are not, it's not mandatory at this point for our plants. We've got people that volunteer are wearing one on their own. Those same people were wearing one 4 months ago when the cold and flu season started. So it had nothing to do with COVID-19. It's just what they want to wear, and you kind of get used to seeing it. But at this point in time, it's nothing mandatory. Now, that may be coming down the road, seeing what you read and everything else, but I think the challenge is going to be where you're going to find the mask.
Thank you. We have another response from 267-210-4360. I'm unmuting you. Oh, hold on just a sec. Okay.
It's John Coach from Acme. We are preparing to do that. We procured face shields from a local company that switched over to manufacture them. So we're planning to put that out next week, and we're also probably going to plan to put out the mask or some type of face covering next week if the CDC and the federal government put that in place, which it certainly sounds like they're about to do. So if they do that, we will make the face mask mandatory and the face shields will be optional.
Thank you, John.
If I can add something to that, Taryn, also at the website today with the update, Tyndall Photographic, which is an AICC member, is offering washable and reusable face masks in any quantity. I think the lead time is about a couple of weeks right now, but to Joe's point, you know, if you're looking for sources and you don't know when you're going to get them, when I spoke to Tyndall this morning, they were on about a 2-week lead time, and we have that link to what they're offering is at the posting today.
That was one of the other questions that was posed, is where do you source the reusable, washable face masks? John, I don't know if you can provide any guidance on that.
He has to would have to raise his hand again.
Oh, okay.
The ones that are being offered from Tyndall are non-medical grade, so they're civilian face masks, for lack of a better word.
Okay, I'm unmuting John.
Yeah, Steve, I'm driving right now. I don't know the specific company name, but there were probably 3 or 4 that came across our communication network today. Actually, one of our clients, again, I think the best thing you guys can do is look at your client base and see who's changing into doing some different things. We got hand sanitizer from Crazy Aaron's, who makes today's version of Silly Putty. They switched all their lines over to hand sanitizer, so we got a bunch of that from them. We got the face shields from a client as well that's shifting over to make face shields, and the face masks are coming from a client as well. So most of ours are coming from specific clients. So I don't have any specific names. I could probably forward some on to you, but my guess is by the time I get home and do that and you guys get it, they're probably going to be 2, 3, 4 week lead times as well.
Thank you.
John, stay on the line for a second. So how are you, these are non-medical grade, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So so because we had a question come in is, can we qualify what type of mask? I don't know if there's some kind of a standard, an industry standard in the mask industry, what different kinds of masks do.
The ones that I'm referring to are washable cotton masks.
Okay.
And apparently they were, you know, from what I'm reading in the emails, now they haven't shown up. We ordered some a week and a half ago. They're coming from California. They were supposed to be here Tuesday. They're going to now get here Thursday, supposedly. We ordered more today where they said they have them in stock and they'll get them to us. So I think you just got to really scour and find the lucky spot. Or again, it's people that are converting over if they're not required to go to medical facilities, which a lot of them are.
Thank you, John. Calling on Jean Marino.
We have a customer that has converted their operation to make masks, and it looks like in the information to us, they've had testing done to determine what, I guess there's a letter that they've attached to this bacterial filtration efficiency reporting that basically gets done. So I think to John's point, I don't know if it passes medical status, but it has a certain amount of applicable results to at least minimize the effects. So these guys are at dreamfitfacemask.com, and they, again, as I said, it's a company we supply cartons to that has never made masks but has converted operations to do so.
Gene, could you repeat that again? Is Dream Fit? Like it sounds?
Dream Fit Face Mask. Yeah, exactly. The word dream, the word fit, like exercise, face mask.com.
Okay.
Thank you, Gene. Calling on Chris Hoish. Chris?
Hey, there are two garment manufacturers here in Utah that have switched their whole production to multi-use face masks. It's my understanding that they prefer multiple layers of different materials, silk being one of them. Apparently particles, or not particle, but virus is smaller than bacteria. Medical masks typically have a carbon layer, like a carbon filter, a carbon layer, and that is why they're single use and not washable and what have you, and a lot more expensive, obviously. Make yourself aware of what different masks do and how to use them. One risk, I think, is that we give a false sense of security. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Steve, any more new questions?
Yeah, another question. This goes back, this is the common theme. I think it's on everybody's mind about having someone test positive in the plant. If that happens, are you disinfecting areas or shutting down until the coronavirus lifespan is passed, meaning the lifespan that it's can remain on certain surfaces? So I don't know among our members on the phone if anyone actually reported having a positive test result in the plant. I do know that we've had members say that how they're disinfecting or how they're protecting their machine centers in terms of this from a sanitation standpoint. So maybe there are members who could address that.
I'm unmuting 267-210. I think that's John again.
Yeah, we luckily have not had a positive case. Obviously, we've had people go out sick. We've had a couple people come back negative. But as far as exposure goes, if we have an exposure on and again, this has changed 3 times since we first put it in place. Originally, we were going to shut everything down for 24, 48 hours and clean everything, and then you're going to end up chasing your tail on that because we have no idea. 50% of the people are asymptomatic right now. So what we would do if we had a case tomorrow on a specific work center was we would quarantine that entire shift that worked on that work center, send them home for 14 days, clean that work center. We have an electrostatic company that actually came in and cleaned all of our common areas today, and we'll do that every week moving forward. They would come in and clean all the common areas in that work center, and then we would start back up. And that's the best thing that I know. And quite frankly, I know a few companies. I mean, like everybody else, we sell 400 people. I've got 40 of them that are shut down right now. The most extreme is 2 companies shut down for 2 weeks. One company, I was told through the grapevine, had 10 exposures. And so they shut for 2 weeks. But I also can tell you that we have companies that have had exposures where they're back up and running in a day or two. Pharmaceutical companies, food companies. So I think it runs the gamut. I think you got to protect your people and also protect your business, and there's no right answer.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to add to that. AICC is aware of 3 member companies that have had employees test positive. In almost all cases, they shut the machine center down for sure and cleaned for at least a 24 to 48-hour period, as John said. We know of another instance where they shut the whole plant down and had ServPro come in and do a major cleaning on all of the surfaces as well. So that seems to be the span is 24 to 48 hours on a machine center. Obviously, cleaning up the entire plant may take longer. I don't know. It depends on the size of the plant. But and then quarantining the crews for at least 14 days seems to be also standard operating procedure as well.
Thank you. I'm unmuting Jean Marino.
You know, I think one of the things we're struggling with, and we continue to talk about it on our calls every day, is you can't control what your folks are doing after they leave your plant. You know, you can't even control if they're dispersing to grab a bite to eat for lunch if 5 of them hop in a car. I mean, we're trying very, very hard to put eyes on everybody when they're coming in, put eyes on everybody when they're coming back from break, diligently stagger. Keep the social distance. We're asking everybody to wear gloves. It kind of our consensus is you're less likely to touch your face when you have gloves on. If you take your gloves off, wash your hands. I mean, all that stuff is going to play into our chances to try to minimize this impact. And there's no easy answer or simplified answer that says, this is what you do if somebody tests positive in your plan. It's gonna have to do with the group of people at your place who get nervous about coming in after they find out somebody's tested positive, the folks that have been around that person who's tested positive. So to the extent that you can be diligently exercising all these requirements of the distancing, of the hand washing, of masks if you feel comfortable, of all the things that we're supposed to be doing. You know, all we can do is hope to minimize it and then contain it if it happens. And as John said, that's our protocol is the same thing. Isolate the machine center. We've got 2 plants that are using the firm I mentioned last week, using their products to disinfect their plant every Saturday, and the bigger plants are bringing in outside firms to do it 7 to 8 hours every Saturday, top to bottom. So, you know, that's all we can do is remain vigilant and trying to keep the place clean and keep people following the proper instructions.
Thank you, Jean. Chris Hoyce, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. 2 different problems, obviously, the personnel side and the disinfecting of the plant. The disinfecting of the plant, the disinfecting of the plant is obviously a challenge that other industries have gone through before or go through all the time. Obviously hospitals, but also the hospitality industry is challenged with that. There are services in every town that offer to do that. We commonly refer to that as fogging. They come in and it'll take a couple hours to fog an area or even a small plant. And after a few more hours of this fog settling, you can go back in and operate, and the area is considered disinfected. I certainly recommend that everybody reach out to a resource like that in case you have to decontaminate your plant. Don't start looking for the service then, right? Have that lined up now with one of those companies that do disinfecting for, again, hospitals or the hospitality industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Steve?
Has anyone had to deal with hazard pay? Has anyone dealt with this or implementing a hazard pay policy?
I'm unmuting 267. I think that's John again.
Yeah, I mentioned on the call last week that we're not calling it hazard pay. We just made a decision I think 2 Sunday nights ago, we're paying everybody that shows up to work every day, frontline leadership and all hourly people, we're paying them time and a half. If they work Saturday, they're getting paid double time. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, is that the right thing? Isn't that the right thing to do? Are we paying people to come in and risk themselves? And I can tell you only from our experience, we had all those conversations and we went back and forth. It was extremely well received in the plant because a lot of people's spouses are not working and they're just saying how grateful they are. So, you know, it's that's what we're doing. We're doing it, and I know there's questions. Well, how are you going to unroll it? I mean, we'll unroll it when we can unroll it. We'll pay it as long as we can, but that's what we're doing.
Thank you, John. Steve?
Yeah, just another follow-up labor-related question. Is anyone bringing in new hires or temp labor right now?
Joe, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll respond. I mean, the short answer is no. As far as temp labor and new hires, I think the challenge right now with new hires is, can they get a pre-employment physical? Can they get a drug screen? Those kind of things that, you know, you're taxing different avenues. And I'm not sure I want to send somebody to a clinic to get a physical or a drug screen than have them come into the plant and work. So we're not hiring anybody. We're also trying to wait till it flushes itself out with the essential, non-essential customers. You know, you have a mix of each, but really how busy you're going to be in the long term, that's what I think everybody's trying to sort out.
Thank you, Joe. John?
Yeah, I would just add the same thing as Joe. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I was annoyed because we had 4 people that I really wanted to get hired, and we decided against it. So we're not bringing anybody in. And now I lost my train of thought on what the other thing I was going to say. Shoot. Back to Joe's end point. I don't want to get into too much detail, but this is going to impact all of our businesses. So while we're having those conversations, it's a great time to hire. There's probably some great people out there. We also then changed the topic to what's going to happen if our business goes down 10%, 30%, 60%. And we all know what those ramifications mean. So that's a second reason why we're not bringing anybody in.
Thank you, John. Steve?
Yeah, for John, you should stay on the line here because I think this is yours too. If you are paying time and a half, are you also for the employees you have working at home during this situation?
We are not, only for people that show up at the plant every day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Steve?
Yep. Has anybody figured out an innovative way to utilize your corrugated converting equipment to help the face shield, gown, mask shortage? For example, this member writes that we have found that we can use our old Pioneer reciprocating die cutter to cut textile materials into gown or mask patterns. Is anyone else doing anything similar?
No answers.
Okay. There have been reports that corrugated boxes can harbor bacteria, and also, I guess, folding carton as well. Are there coatings, inks, substrates, or additives that can repel or mitigate this hazard? Any suppliers who might be on the call might have an answer to this.
If you do have an answer, please raise your hand so we can unmute you. Chris Hoish. Go ahead.
Yes, those coatings exist at very high cost. It's not something you want to get into. But again, we're dealing with a viral bacteria. I'm not familiar with any antiviral coating.
Thank you, Chris.
I would also refer Mike. I think we posted on our website this the results of some study that detailed the different surfaces and how long the coronavirus can.
That was a National Institute of Health study that we did post on the site that shows that the coronavirus lasts on paper-based surfaces up to 24 hours. And it's referred to as up to 24 hours because it's on a decreasingly strong basis the longer it's on the surface until there's nothing left. It dissipates over time on a porous surface.
Okay. Next question.
And Virginia has linked that report in the chat box. Thank you, Virginia.
I don't see any more written questions coming in on my feed here.
Have John Koshi, I'm muting you.
Yeah, just in one of my other network groups, and maybe you guys are all already doing it. We were not. I'm surprised we weren't because I thought we were pretty far ahead. But we're going to be starting to send out a weekly bulletin to all of our employees, both at home and at work, talking about just the communication. And we're going to do it in 3 different types of segments. One would be things that we've done to try and maintain our health and safety in the workplace. There's a lot of it. We've all done a lot. We're all spending a lot of money and time doing that. So that would be one part of it. The second part would be, why is your work important? I think I saw something today from Pratt after we had already done it, but saw something from Pratt about, we're keeping the food stocked on the shelves. So why is it important for you to be here? What's the greater good? That kind of a section. And then the third section would just be a very quick update on, at a very high level, how our business is doing. How are our bookings going? Just some very high level metrics just to try and keep people in the loop.
Thank you. Steve?
I'm scanning here. Those of you might refer to the group, the text box here on the side of your screen, because I see people are posting answers and and solutions in there. Bear with me here a second. I do not see any new questions. Comments, yes, not new questions though.
If you have a question that we might have missed, please go back and post it in the chat area so that we can ask it. Sometimes we do. The scroll goes pretty quickly. So if you think we did not ask your question, please repost. If anybody has anything they want to say, they can raise their hand. Jeff Putt, P-U-T-T, there was a comment made that you had some interesting things to say in the chat area. If you're able to talk, please raise your hand and we can call on you.
He's raising his hand
There
visually.
we go. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Taryn. Hi, everybody. We all learned way too much about viruses lately, but a virus is technically not alive. It is an organism that only lives to replicate itself in the presence of an organic cell, bacteria, whatever. So that's why it's able to live technically on smooth surfaces for as long as it has, because it's an inert organism until it finds a host. So there aren't coatings that I know of that would have virucides built into them, but maybe Chris knows of some. But the best thing is to keep cleaning everything and not allow that opportunistic organism to find its way to mucous membrane in your plant, people, or any other place at home and the family.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Steve?
Bear with me a second. Let's see. Are box makers struggling to get service technicians into their plants if they have breakdown due to travel restrictions by governments or hotels willing to allow them to stay if they're from out of state? Maybe some suppliers want to comment on that. Let me repeat that. Are any box makers struggling to get service technicians into their plants if they have a breakdown and the struggle would be because of travel restrictions by governments or hotels willing to allow them to stay if they're from out of state?
I'm going to unmute John.
Yeah, I believe Bob sent out a communication today saying they're not going to have any technicians travel. We are being very judicious about it. We have, if it's essential, we're letting them in, but there was a person that was supposed to come in this weekend from a company. We weren't comfortable with them being in an airplane, so we're kind of trying to see how it is, and if anybody can drive, we're probably more likely to let them in, but it would have to be an emergency. I can tell you that we also burned out a motor on a box today, and of course it wasn't, they didn't have it in the United States, so we had to get it from France, and that was way delayed. So those situations are becoming, they will be a challenge for all of us over the next couple months.
Thank you, John.
I can add something to that because I've spoken to a few suppliers, and it's case by case, I guess, and it's becoming tighter. First, if it's a domestic travel situation, I think the suppliers are managing as best they can. Most of them are trying to address machine down issues, but there are restrictions depending on where the technicians are based, what state, whether they come from a hot spot or not. I've also heard that if a technician is coming from Europe, if they can find a way to get here, once they arrive, they're almost guaranteed a mandatory 2-week stay in self-quarantine someplace. So, and then the question is who's paying for that, and the time and everything else. So there's a whole lot of new ground that is being plowed here. We'll try and get a generic, non-specific answer from a series of associates and share that at the website if we can, because I'm sure as these things become more and more difficult to deliver, nobody's going to want to thump their chest and say, hey, we can't do anything. So so there's that. Tony's raising his hand.
Tony.
Nope, Tony Battaglia.
Oh, Tony. You guys got to use the chat thing. The participant, raise your hand.
Someone raising their hand visually.
Sorry, I couldn't find a button fast enough.
That's okay, Tony.
So from Fosber's aspect, we have technicians scattered throughout North America. We have technicians that are housed at various customers, in those geographic areas. So travel for our technicians is more regional. We try to keep them close to home. In the event of an emergency or something like that, we're working that out with the customer on an as-needed basis. But because of the plethora of technicians that we do have in the field, of course, safety is everything for us right now, protecting those folks. But we haven't run into a whole lot of challenges about responding to the customer base that's running our equipment. Parts, we've stocked up our inventories. We continue to get shipments in from our Italian manufacturer, where a lot of our equipment is coming out of. We're able to still get some of those parts that are needed. The American components, of course, with Allen Bradley and things like that, we're not seeing any delays. So from a parts availability, we're still able to ship. We're still able to get those parts to the needed areas, throughout North America. But from a safety standpoint for our technicians, if they are on the road, if they are traveling, no matter really where they're going, whether it be a hot spot or not, when they come back to our Green Bay location where a lot of them are reside, they have a 14-day shutdown period where we're not allowing them to go into Fosber, America. They have to be 14 days of, basically off the road, self-quarantine before they can come back to the manufacturing facility or to our office. So Jeff is doing everything that he can to keep the entire company safe. We knock on wood, to date, we've got no reported cases throughout Fosber and our employee base. Everyone is healthy. And I think our HR department has done a outstanding job of just keeping people updated and giving everyone the most current information throughout North America, so that the techs that are traveling understand the areas that they're working in, what to avoid, how to stay clean, how to keep good personal hygiene. We do have some folks that are still flying, but so far, no issues, and we're still supporting as best as we can.
Thank you. Susie Cummins is on the phone, and she just sent me some information on the exposure policy for the company that she works for. And I'm hoping, Susie, that I can call on you. So I'm going to unmute you. And if I can, please state that. If I can't, let me know, and I'll mute you again.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Susie.
What would you like to know?
Just can you kind of give an overview of your RPI exposure policy and some of the things that you're dealing with?
Sure. We just put this together so that we would know, and I think you can link it if you'd like. We just put up all the scenarios. If you have someone who has been sick with or without the symptoms, if you show signs, but anyway, it's very similar to what everybody's talking about already. If we have someone who's tested positive, obviously keep it confidential. Our HR manager will handle all the communications. We have the employee. We haven't had anybody test positive. We have had people who have symptoms. We have people who might have a spouse who had exposure to somebody who was found positive. So we just have been following all these steps. We find out who the employee, if we had a case where the employee's spouse was exposed, so the employee is home for 14 days. They're monitoring their symptoms. They're in touch with us. But essentially, it's just about kind of keep control of who those employees have been in touch with at the plant. And then we talk to those employees and we just say, there's an employee that may have been exposed, please monitor your symptoms. But we're not sending those employees home.
Susie, you also sent this this tool that you put together for your facilities, and you said it's specific to Georgia, but it might be helpful to some. Can you talk a little bit about that, and is it okay for us to share that with the group?
Sure, you can share it. So it's a tool that we put together to try to help employees as well as HR on how to handle everything from I'm scared to come to work. Basically, what we're trying to do is reconcile all the different versions of an employee's life and how they can get paid. So if you have an employee who says, I'm scared to come to work, I don't have any symptoms, nobody around me has any symptoms, but I'm really nervous to come to work. How do you handle that? And in our case, we're saying, well, if we can accommodate that, then yeah, definitely stay home, but you need to use PTO or time off without pay, because there's no sick leave that you can take advantage of or anything like that. All the way through from that extreme down to I'm sick, I'm taking care of someone who's sick, et cetera, et cetera. then there are state programs that are available. There are, you know, everything from unemployment to the emergency, family first leave, all that stuff. So we've made a grid and we've created all the different scenarios, and then across the grid, the different programs that people could potentially use. And it's really for our HR people to use one-on-one when they're talking with an employee about what their options are.
Mike, I sent that to you. I think, can we post that on the, maybe post that on the COVID side? I sent it to you via email.
I haven't seen it, but yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Susie. Steve?
Yeah, I think David Goach is still on, so I'm gonna ask him whether to, you know, call foul or fair on this. We have two companies prepared to treat our plant, and I guess that would be for disinfecting or cleanup. What per square foot pricing are you seeing? We have been seeing pricing up to $1 per square foot.
David's available.
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No, I have no problem with anyone chiming in with their general experience in terms of what they've seen as reasonable pricing for cleaning. That's okay. That's fair.
Anybody?
I'm unmuting John.
Yeah, it varies tremendously. We've seen quotes as high as $40,000. We've seen them at $15,000, and we negotiated a contract with a local company to do the electrostatic cleaning of all of our bathrooms, lunchrooms, and I think I'm not sure the square footage. I could probably get it. Maybe it's 10 or 15,000 square feet, and we paid $3,000 for that. We signed up for that weekly for a month. They wanted 3,500, and we said, how about if we did it every week? So they dropped it to 3,000. And honest to God, they were in our plant doing all that area. And we have a 250,000 square foot plant, so we've got to, not that they did the whole plant, they did the lunchrooms and the bathrooms and all that stuff. They were in and out within an hour and a half. So it's a pretty good business, I'm guessing.
Thank you, John. Steve, are there any other questions? We're wrapping up on the hour.
Yeah, so, and here's one that goes to all members, because all members can share and help in this. If anybody has any staffing issues, and I guess this would be in the plant, what is the best format to find another member that has the capacity to run or outsource temporary business to? I think the best thing to do would be contact our office, number one, or go to our online directory.
I'm going to lower Jean's hand. I mean, unmute Jean. Sorry, hold on.
Before we wrap up, I just, in that vein of Steve's question, you know, we're talking so much about what's going on with and our facility's ability to kind of combat everything that's going on. But I think an important aspect of this, and John Coachy touched on it briefly, is, you know, spend some time, forecast and model through your P&L, understand, you know, what new normals look like, you know, kind of the rhythm and pace of bookings and how that changes your P&L and how it changes the throughput in your facility. Look at the ordering patterns. You know, we're starting to get customers that are going to now notify us of being closed for the next 4 weeks. So spending time to just really kind of think through your variable and fixed and how that looks and how, as an industry, every one of us can remain healthy and stay in business, I think is just a really good exercise. And you know, to model game plans of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you know, no one ever wants to see that stuff happen, but to be proactive, I think in many cases we want to hope for the best, that things will bounce back, we'll be able to weather the storm, but at times we've got to do what's necessary to protect the greater good of our folks. So any time you can invest to do that, I think is going to be very beneficial. I think we're all going to see changes in our cash cycle. And if we think we're not, I think we're kidding ourselves. I think there's going to be strains on people's ability to pay that will affect not only this industry, but the entire U.S. a base of supply and demand. And so take some time and just think through those things, and reach out to people in this group who can provide you with just basic templates to help you through exercises like that. It's just beneficial to try to stay a couple steps ahead of that as well.
Thank you, Gene. Well said. Steve, are there any other questions?
There is one here. I'm going to just at the end. This is a non-COVID, really. Are plants generally considering Friday, April 10th a holiday, or will you be operating? I guess Friday, April 10th is Good Friday.
There's a lot posted on that in the chat area as well. They are saying it's a standard holiday for us at Weber, Friday holiday at Ruskin Plants, traditionally off on Good Friday at Wunderlich.
Okay. I think that.
Just final question. We said we would do 3 calls. This is the last call we currently have scheduled. If you'd like us to continue, please post in the chat that you want it to continue. We had 268 people on the call today, so I think it's pretty important, but we really want to hear from you. So we'll base that on the vote. Mike, you have anything you want to
just my big wrap up is, and John Cochi kind of stole my thunder, but he's absolutely correct. It's all about communication at this point. Communicating with your employees, they're scared. A lot of people are scared. Communicating with your customers. I'm going to quote one member that was giving us advice to impart on everyone. Basically, he said, overreact, don't take chances, be obsessively thorough in all things. And I think that is very good advice, and it's we're happy to share it with you. We're going to keep our daily updates going on the website. We'll take under advisement keeping this conference going. We do have the community, as I mentioned, which we did announce yesterday. So how you link to the community, again, you have to log in as a member to do that. You would find in yesterday's posting on the Daily Packaging Update site. And we wish everyone all the best, and we hope everyone stays well. And we are here, AICC is, to do anything necessary to assure your success in the face of this unprecedented situation.
Thank you,
all
Mike.
very much.
There are several notes on the call that suggest we do this next Thursday, since we're closed for Good Friday on Friday. So I guess we'll get back to everybody with when we're going to have the next one.
Absolutely, we will.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.